got some heavy-duty blaster power.
You need it when you hunt Maverick bots.
Alright, picture this. On one hand, you have the classic 8-bit Mega Man, and on the other hand, you have Mega Man X. What a change of atmosphere. But what happened between them? You went blank just now, right? Now, I do have a few answers, both for myself and for you. So, yeah, let's begin.
Who is that bot?
Beats me, but he's on our side.
So, how long is that gap? Really? When we look at the timeline, the gap is said to be approximately 100 years. We leave the world of the original Mega Man in the year 20XX and wake up with X in the year 21XX. But, if I'm being honest, those 100 years feel very convenient. It's long enough for everyone we loved in the classic series to have passed away from the old age, But short enough that the remains of their time are still recognizable. The interesting thing about this century is that we don't have any end date for the classic series. Mega Man 11 and future games still take place in the 20XX era, and Capcom has, never given us a final chapter. Because of this, the classic era doesn't end with anything. Literally nothing happens. Think about it like this. Technology in the Mega Man universe moved so fast that the Robot Masters became the equivalent of a steam engine in the age of jet planes. Society transitioned from seeing robots as tools with fixed roles to seeing them as sentient entities. However, because we never see a last adventure on screen, this transition is purely conceptual. Were you there? Was I there? Nah. Nobody was there to see what happened. The heroes of 20XX became legends, then myths, then eventually just data in a dusty archive. What was Dr. Light really doing with X? If you look at the logs Dr. Light left behind, you start to realize that he was having a full-blown existential crisis about the future of robotics. X was his ultimate creation, but the core difference was his mind. X was designed with a completely new type of AI that granted him free will. He wasn't bound by the free laws of robotics or a specific set of program directives. He could think, worry, and most importantly, make good choices. I've always found it fascinating that Light was terrified of this. What is it with people creating things and then regretting them? Like Robert Oppenheimer, who made the atom bomb. Come on, man, you literally made the thing. Anyways, Dr. Light knew that a robot with the power of X and the ability to choose its own path could either be the greatest savior or, the most unstoppable nightmare. Because of this fear, he sealed X in a diagnostic capsule. It was a sophisticated computer that was scheduled to run X through 30 years of ethical and psychological simulations, or should I say, a sanity check for his soul. Now, Light was already an old man when he finished X. He knew he wouldn't live to see X wake up, so of course, most of the classic to X transition happens off-screen while X is sealed in a pod. Where did the classic cast even go? This is the part that breaks my heart a little bit. You're looking for an explanation for what happened to Roll, Rush, Proto Man, or Bass. Right? Sorry, you won't find one. No mainline game, no official master timeline, and no Capcom press release has ever told us anything. They just disappear. Fan theories have rushed in to fill the space, and I've seen some wild ones. Like the Cataclysm theory is the most famous one. It suggests that Wily's final creation, Zero, woke up prematurely and slaughtered the entire classic cast. Damn, I wish this isn't true. Then there was the evolution theory. Some fans like to think Rock was upgraded into X. Again, this is speculative. And at last, the retirement theory. This is the one I prefer, actually. In a world where technology was rapidly advancing toward the Reploid era, the old robot masters were likely decommissioned or placed in museums. It's important to know that these are all simply guesses. All of this is cool, but it's sad when there are no official answers. Like, just a few weeks ago, Stranger Things fans were going crazy and making all sorts of weird theories just because not all their questions were answered. I was one of those crazy fans. Anyways, the truth is that Capcom keeps the reality of the classic cast hidden so they can keep making classic games without having to worry about a predetermined ending. So our childhood heroes are essentially ghosts, huh? Well, yeah, let's say that. How does Wily's story bleed into Zero and X? While Dr. Light was working on a way to bring peace to the future, Dr. Wily was working on a way to burn it down. The strongest link between the two eras is, without a doubt, Zero. Thanks to retroactive connections in the X series and various source books, we now know that Zero was Wily's last creation. It's a mystery why we never see Wily building Zero in the classic games. My theory? Wily knew he was dying and poured everything he had into a robot that would surpass even Mega Man. But, like Light, Wily couldn't control his creation. Zero was born with a malfunction that made him violent. In short, the Maverick virus. The most important moment is the first fight between Zero and Sigma. At the start of the 21XX era, Zero was found in a sealed lab, much like X, but, he came out swinging. He was a red Maverick, and Sigma was sent to stop it. This event is what connects the two eras. How does Cain's discovery flip the world? The real catalyst for the X era was X himself, of course. But there's one more man, the man who found him, Dr. Cain. About 100 years after Dr. Light sealed X away, Cain was doing an archaeological dig and stumbled upon the ruins of Light's lab. He found the capsule, read the warnings, and, well, he ignored the 30 years of testing and turned X on. Pretty stupid. I've always felt like Dr. Cain is the unintentional villain of the story. He was so amazed by X's design that he decided to use it as a blueprint for a whole new race of robots. These became the Reploids. Dr. Light spent decades agonizing over the safety of one free-willed robot. Dr. Cain saw that same technology and immediately started mass-producing it. Because Cain didn't fully understand the complexity of X's ethical systems, the Reploids he created were flawed. They had free will, yeah, but they didn't have the decades of conditioning that Light gave X. This decision flipped everything. Suddenly, you didn't have a few robot masters working in power plant. You had a whole society of sentient machines. This rapid replication led to the Maverick problem. When a Reploid's free will or programming went crazy, they become Mavericks. Then followed the Maverick Wars, which were far more devastating than anything seen in the classic era. Dr. Cain's discovery fast-tracked the evolution of robotics, but without the moral compass Dr. Light had created. It eventually led all the way to the Elf Wars and the Zero series. So, kids, don't try to shortcut the work of a genius, okay? Why does the world feel so much darker in X? If you've ever felt like the world of Mega Man X is a bit of a downer compared to the original, you're not alone. The classic games are episodic and full of bright color. Dr. Wily steals some robots, Mega Man stops him, and peace is restored. On the other hand, the X era is systemic. Large-scale uprisings, existential debates, in a world that feels like it's always on the brink of collapse. How the heck did everything turn so dark? Oh, I know the answer. All of this is a result of that unseen century. The Reploids increased significantly, and when a population is at war with itself, there's tragedy everywhere. The Zero Sigma incident and the repeated Maverick crisis transformed everything from a bright hero story into a military drama. The good old days of 20XX are long gone, and there's violence everywhere. I think that's why the X series resonates this much with people. A hero who is tired, hates fighting, but also has to carry the legacy of a world that was built on a foundation of both hope and a very dangerous virus? Yeah, it does make sense. At the end of the day, it's up to us to make theories and imagine what happened between the two eras. Which theory is your favorite and what must have happened? Let me know in the comments below.